Hi, and good evening, everyone. My name is Tamisha Smith, NJSBA Vice President for Finance, and welcome to NJSBA's virtual workshop Thursday night event. This premier event will feature an esports competition in partnership with Horizon AVL and Garden State Esports. This live action event will be a bracket-style tournament completely live and will include commentators that will follow the action in real time. The game, Rocket League, is a fast-paced vehicular soccer game, making it critical for teams to communicate and scheme quickly as a unit. New Jersey's Knollwood Middle School in Fairhaven, the first middle school in the country to start a school video games team, and William Annan Middle School Esports Club will display why esports is such a fast-growing industry. Thank you so much and enjoy the show.
The NJSBA Rocket League Tournament is brought to you by Platform One, bringing esports and education together. Esports integration. Design, build, and compete. For more information, visit esportsintegration.com. And by Horizon AVL System Integration, bringing your vision to life. For more information, visit horizonavl.com.
Guys.
Thank you, Joshua. Hello, friends at home. My name is Chris Aviles. I am a teacher at Knollwood Middle School in the Fairhaven School District. When I'm not a teacher, I am the coach of the FH Knights. We were the first middle school in the country. And as always, I am joined by my partner in crime, the guy who came along on this crazy sports journey with me, and that is Mr. Steve Isaacs.
Hey, everybody. My name is Steve Isaacs. I teach game design and development at William Annan Middle School and Ridge High School in Basking Ridge, New Jersey. And as Chris mentioned, we took this on about 2 years ago. Chris asked if I could pull a team together to have the first ever middle school Rocket League, or actually esports match. And that was the Jersey Shore Cup. And we played and continued to play after that, and now have a full middle school league starting up very shortly, in addition to the work that Chris and I are doing with Garden State Esports, which is an affiliate of NASEF, which is the North America Scholastic Esports Federation.
Fantastic. And we are also very lucky to be joined by one of the player casters for the FH Knights, my very own student. This is Karma. Karma, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing pretty good.
Fantastic. And so, Karma, I think the best place to start off with is, I bet we have a lot of parents and teachers watching tonight that probably don't know what esports is, or maybe just think that it's playing video games. Talk to us a little bit about what is esports.
So esports is just competitive gaming on a large scale level, whereas like just regular gaming is just you're playing with your friends and squaring around, whereas esports, you're playing for either money to get your name out there and just for competition. Like for Rocket League, they have championships and giant tournaments for world titles of like best Rocket League player or something along that.
Absolutely. And we can kind of see, Logan, the action is already going hard. WAMS is up 2-0 in about 90 seconds. Steve, tell us about how your team kind of came together here.
So again, well, our team, so this is great. A couple of the kids on our team right now are in 8th grade now. And when you first invited us to play, 2 of them were in 6th grade, and they were quite good then. And now I hope you'll see tonight how they've grown and brought on Alpaca on Wii, who is one of our big game clubbers, who's an incredible gamer, a little newer to Rocket League, but was definitely excited about the opportunity. So, these guys, this is my primary Rocket League team. We also have a team competing in Minecraft with something called Comp MC, where they do competitive Minecraft, which is also very exciting. There might be one of them. I think Alpaca might be on both teams, but Blake and Andrew are big, definitely big Rocket League players.
Yeah, absolutely. The Minecraft competition, something that we're going to be having in Fairhaven this spring as well. It's the first time we're going to offer multiple games for our esports teams. But the game we're talking about tonight is Rocket League. And the easiest way to explain it, this is soccer with cars, and you can see, as you would imagine, the goal here, the goal is to score goals, honestly. And as the players compete, hitting the ball back and forth, there's a lot of strategy involved. I know Logan is in the practices with me where I talk to the team about, how we can best compete. Logan, talk a little bit about the strategy that, folks watching at home might see here.
Well, so the strategy in Rocket League is not just as simple to hit the ball. Like when the ball is in the air here, you'll see some of the players jump up to try to do something called an aerial or an air dribble, is where they dribble the ball in the air and will try to score a goal or bounce it off the wall into the goal with not being on the ground.
And there is a goal. Simply Hyped for WAMS puts one in. Let's walk through the replay. We have a centering shot, and then Simply Hyped comes in and cleans up the mess. And that's a common strategy, right, Logan? Like you were just mentioning.
Yeah.
You saw the pass, right? So you're trying to center the ball, and then you saw Simply Hyped there go into the air and smack it over my FH Knight's head. Steve, I don't know if you want to tell your kids to take it easy. There's a lot of game left to play here, sir.
That's right. I don't want them to. I don't want them to burn out too early here. I do enjoy when my team beats your team, Chris. I'll be honest.
Well, and that's because, Steve, I hate losing.
That's right.
About how Steve and I, approach esports. One of the reasons I reached out to Steve is he had a video game club already. And I came to esports from the competitive side, right? I've been a varsity coach, in New Jersey going on 12, 13 years, football, wrestling, and track. And for me, esports is about the competition, right? Mm-hmm. I love to, be part of, that kind of stuff. But Steve, talk about how your esports team was born out of your game club. There's multiple ways to do this.
It was definitely interesting. So when I first did put this out, when we started a game club a couple of years ago, William Annan, my goal, I wanted to have certainly an inclusive environment for anybody interested in playing games. I love games. I'm not as, I'm very competitive. I'm just not as good at most games. My kids will be quick to tell you that. But I wanted to, create this community of people interested in games. I did from the beginning know that, I wanted to get us to that competitive level. But so our initial offering for the club was pretty much written as a casual game club, but with opportunities to form competitive teams and compete against other schools. It was very much the casual game club until, like I said, I got that call. And what was great about Chris reaching out directly to me was it was the first time, I kind of knew exactly where we could fit into this. And when I proposed to my kids, hey, I have this school that wants to play us in Rocket League, all of a sudden you saw the kids that were super excited about that. And again, 2 of them are right here, right now.
And then, Steve, as you were talking, we finished up the first match in our 5-match showcase. The WAMS take match 1, 3-1. Hopefully, we're going to see the FH Knights step it up. Logan, what do you think? What do we need to do, bud? What would we tell our teammates here, Karma, that we need to do?
I feel like our team is mainly on the offensive, whereas, if I looked at Spade when I was watching him, I know Spade personally. He likes to be more up front and likes to strike the ball more. But I could see this game that he was trying to do both. Mm-hmm. Whereas I didn't really see much of Lazy and Minty. I mean Lazy and Snorlax. But when I did, they were usually either going for the ball or at the goal. I saw Lazy at the ball a lot. I mean at the goal a lot, which was good. But I feel like our team just needs to up the defensive.
Yeah, so if I'm hearing you right, it seems like Spade, who is primarily an offensive player, needs support from Minty and Snorlax to get in there, maybe get some centering shots and to set Spade up for the goals, because Spade is one of my most talented players, but he is a very offensive-minded player. And so, it's interesting, Logan, talk about the teamwork that goes into this, right? Rocket League is a 3-player game. It's not something that you as an individual can carry your team, right? So when we talk about teamwork, what does that mean to you?
Well, teamwork, I know from just a first-person view in this. I know that the Spade couldn't be doing one thing and then his team just sitting, or like for anybody.
Right.
So like, you need somebody. So if you center the ball, who's gonna hit it? If you don't have somebody to hit it, the ball's not gonna go anywhere. It's just gonna stay there and could get tossed around.
And
So
again, no, go ahead. Sorry, Karma.
Teamwork is just the biggest part of Rocket League. I know that like when I'll play 1v1s in this game, but it's not very helpful, and then I step up to 2v2s and 3v3s. Once you have that teamwork aspect, most players you'll see like their high point in their gaming, just because they have their teammates to activate that strength in that specific game. And without that, I feel like not many people could be at their best.
Yeah, I have a question for you also, Karma. Just thinking, you obviously know your team well. I'm guessing, you were saying, I think it was Spade is a very aggressive offensive player. Is that a strength that against other teams has really, helped Fairhaven, kind of dominate?
Yeah, but there has been a couple teams that, like, including William Annan, there's a lot of teams that have been able to block his shots. Like, I'm gonna go for, like, Simply Hyped. He's been doing a lot of jump shots to block it, but Spade has usually been our best offensive players.
Absolutely.
And he's always been strong. He's been getting better. And I know that I could never I've been able to barely block his shots, and I'm a goalie, so. Oh,
cool. And how do you do you prefer shoutcasting? Because I'll say you're doing a fine job.
I can't really hear myself, so I could say I'm shouting. I just speak louder because I think I'm quiet.
No, I don't mean that. No. I'm saying shoutcasting, is when we refer to the whole commentating part. I'm saying, do you enjoy that more than playing the game, or would you still prefer to be playing?
It really depends on the game. For Rocket League, I'd rather cast.
Cool.
I'm not very good at the game, and I'm very insanely competitive, so I don't like to show people that I'm bad.
Yeah. But you're doing great with casting. I think that's incredible, and I think it's great that you're out here doing this. So thank you for helping us out, because you are grabbing the parts of the game that you're allowing Chris and I to kind of talk esports and stuff, and you're the eyes on the field. So thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, something, Karma, that you can share. Karma's with us right now, and then we're going to bring in the other, part of my casting team and Fairhaven. And we've been working really hard, this week doing our casting and practicing. And one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we brought up, is kind of what you just touched on, Steve. Karma, share what you were talking about earlier about careers in esports, right? It's very unlikely that you're going to be a competitive gamer for a career, right? But there are a lot of jobs available in the world of esports, aren't there?
Yeah, like you could be a caster. You could just set up events like these. Like, I know Dark Ice did. He set this he helps set this whole event up.
That's right.
Like in esports, you could cast, you could play the game, you could even just be setting up the event, and you're still a part of it. But
absolutely,
I know that me personally, I have my own Twitch channel, and I hope to grow it. But I just know that a lot of like people like will cast and play at the same time. They'll cast their own movements, and it's just, I know personally, because I've watched streamers, I've listened to people play, I've kind of just went through it in my own head. It can be amazing, but there's also a lot of downtime. But like today, I feel like Spade and their team, they're probably talking back and forth. So like, since there's casters like us, all of us, we have people that like, so we can like help people understand. But there's a lot of different ways you could be a part of esports.
You know what? I'm getting a little nervous here because
I was about to interrupt. I don't know if you're watching, Steve, but
I am. I don't like that.
Come back yet, but they probably heard what Karma had to say, because now Minty is pushing up from defense to offense and passing it to Spade again, going up with a hat trick, 3-0 with 60-something seconds left here.
Yeah.
Steve, how nervous are you?
I'm nervous, and I'll tell you, this is where it's so funny. You watch, and like, I'm watching casually last game. All of a sudden, my heart's racing. Like this, oh man, Spade, good score. So this game is intense. I hope the people watching, one of the cool things about Rocket League, there are some titles out there for esports that are kind of hard to kind of follow and know exactly what you're watching. We're watching an intensely fast game of soccer with cars, and it's so you know what you're watching, and it's really exciting, especially with the aerials and everything. I do wish, I hope my team regroups and puts it back on, even if they need this loss to wake up or something. We'll see.
Well, it's been a battle back and forth. You see Spade, like I said, working along with Lazy Minty and Snorlax. And I will give you an inside scoop as the coach of the FH Knights. Spade and Lazy Minty are brother and sister. And Lazy Minty was the first girl who came out and joined my team. And that, I think, was a big part that at the time her brothers were there. And because Lazy Minty led the way,
that's awesome.
I now have 4 girls on my team. And so that's one thing that's important too.
Absolutely.
In esports is we want to make sure it's inclusive and diverse as possible.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you see the same thing, Steve, is we attract all kinds of kids to our esports team.
Yes.
And a lot of those kids maybe aren't so interested in traditional sports, but they found a home at esports.
Yeah.
We hyped scoring there with 3 seconds on the clock. Steve, is that what you're seeing?
I was looking away. Oh, yeah. So absolutely. But it's always, it seems to still take quite an effort. I think our heart is absolutely in creating an inclusive experience for a diverse community, and we work at it. I was super excited to see. I've got my registrations coming in for this year's game club and esports, and every time I open the envelope and it's a girl's name, I'm glad to see that. Very glad. And we have when we started playing you originally, we had one girl on our 3-player Rocket League team, and she, like Karma, also took to casting, and then if you remember, she created a great montage from one of our first matches together. So again, she did play, but she also realized there were other aspects that were of interest as well. But I'm so glad to hear that that in your case it's growing as well.
Absolutely. And Karma, talk to us about that, right? There's the competitive side that I'm always excited for. But ultimately, I think the best thing we want to do for our students, Karma, is give them a place where they can connect and grow, relationships and friendships. What has that been like for you to be part of the esports team? Has your circle of friends grown? Are you guys hanging outside of school? I know last year I was really excited that you guys were going out for pizza after the match, which I thought was really neat. So what has that experience been like, Karma, being part of the esports team?
I would say that being a part of esports, one, has brought me more into gaming, which is probably one of my favorite hobbies other than to watch anime. And I now have multiple groups of friends. Whereas Spade, I remember after matches or one of our old players that doesn't play anymore, we would either even end matches and go get food, or before matches go get food, and sometimes even play after the match just to get better at the game and a better teamwork. I know this year, one of my closest friends is going to be joining the team, and I know that he's one of a pretty good player that I've been playing with since I've started playing Rocket League, and that he would probably be a great addition to the team. And it's just, I feel like just getting this build relationships, and also going back on what Mr. Isaac said, Rocket League is a very fast-paced game. Whereas some other games like CSGO or Valorant is very slow pace and there's multiple rounds, but that's what esports has personally brought to me.
Okay, I love to hear. It really makes me happy because, again, as competitive as I am, Steve, what it's really about is providing the best experience possible for these kids.
Absolutely. That makes me think, Chris, I'm sorry, that makes me think too of all the things we've been seeing since COVID, right? For my team, we were committed last year to keeping our game club going. So we just had to shift, we shifted to Discord and Google Classroom and stuff. And we still had our game club. And that was, I think, really important for the kids that were involved to know that they still had a place to hang out even remotely. And we're continuing the same this year. And I hope other schools realize the potential there, because we're in this odd place where we're saying, okay, we can't have certain activities. Well, we certainly can come together through games. And, on an interesting note, probably a lot of people watching and stuff play Among Us. And while it's not a esport competitive game, it proved such an incredible thing about bringing people together through gaming at a time like this, COVID, where it increased in popularity tremendously because it was a way for people to talk and play and still hang out. And I've seen that with my game club and esports. And then it was kind of funny, even towards the end of the year, the kids in our Discord server said, well, wait, can we, let's keep meeting every week the same time over the summer. It was like they kind of realized they were empowered to now we can self-organize and we could continue to do this. And like Karma was saying, in terms of like friend groups and things, I mean, this is that group. And a lot of people right now are sort of trying to figure out how to maintain their social, activities. So this is a no-brainer, if you ask me.
Going on what Mr. Isaac said there, I can agree with that. I play video games on the daily. That's probably one of my favorite things to do. And like any game, even games that aren't in esports, have definitely brought up my relationships and have gotten me to where I can like kind of trust my friends more and also just have so much more fun without being so close and personal, so I don't get sick. And video games have definitely just brought up relationships, helped me get more trust, and it's just a fun way to spend time.
So it's my understanding we're having a little bit of a technical difficulty with the stream. Just know that we are working on that. It seems like the game is not displaying properly, but I've been told that that's something that we are working to fix for you. But right now, to update you, in Game 3, the WAMS Vikings are up on the FH Knights 2-0 with about 2 minutes left in the third match. And we will try to get that fixed for you as soon as possible. All right. And what we're going to do now, Karma, we are going to say goodbye. And we are going to bring in your partner, Mr. Jude, to finish up casting with us.
Mm-hmm. All I want to say is bye, everyone that's watching the stream, and you're in good hands with Shrek.
Awesome. There we go. So Karma is going to exit, and we're going to bring in Jude, a.k.a. Shrek, for our match up here. There we go. Let's admit Jude. Wonderful. Looks like the game is back on. And as the game comes back to your Twitch stream, we are also joined by Jude. Jude, how are you today, buddy?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. How are you?
We're doing fantastic. I'm a little nervous, though. Right now, the FH Knights are down 3-0 in the third match. Series 1-1.
Now you're nervous, Chris?
I mean, I don't get nervous. A little bit nervous. But, Jude, I know you have been watching. What do you think about the game so far?
I think that it was very close. Like, I thought it was a bit closer than I thought. I thought that I didn't know who was going to win, but it was much closer than I thought. Like, at the beginning, the WAMS were up, and then during the second game, the FHK Knights, they came back, like, very fast. And I wasn't able to – I was watching the stream. I don't think we were able to see the game for a bit. But now it looks like the WAMS are up again.
Yeah, WAMS are up with 52 seconds left in the third match, 3-0. I'll tell you, it's going to be a best of 5 here, Steve. I think we're going to see it go down to the wire. What do you think your kids are thinking?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure that last game, kind of set them straight a little bit. It's very interesting to see, that turnaround like that. So at the very least, I think they definitely have learned not to take anything for granted like they might have started to in that first match. So I think we have, I think what's happening is we're seeing like momentum shifts, like the adrenaline is pumping when one of these teams gets taken down. It seems like they're answering, right? So, I'm sure right now they're feeling pretty good. I think they were probably starting to feel it last match.
Absolutely. And, I'll tell you, one thing I do as an esports coach is I always draw back on my traditional coaching experience with football, wrestling, and track. And so, one of the things that hopefully people can understand at home is the same experiences you have in traditional sports, right? You have in esports. And so here we are. The FA Knights are going down 1-0. We're now down, 2-1 in the series. WAMS leading. It's a skill to understand that you need to come back, you need to regroup,
Well,
you guys need to battle and move forward together.
Yeah, you know what else? I mean, that brings up such great points too. Like our emotional state, just like in a sporting event, or because it's the same competitive elements entirely. But it's very interesting, and I'd love to. It would be great now to hear like your team talking to each other, because sometimes that dynamic changes when there becomes a little bit of a nervous tone. I don't know if that's what's happening for them, but I know you got to keep your head straight, because we do, I think, sometimes get frazzled. And in some games, they have the expression tilt, where somebody gets angry and kind of like it throws them off to a point that they kind of it deteriorates their performance for sure. So I'm not saying that's happening, but that's something to consider always.
Well, I mean, Jude, as a player, when things aren't going our way on the FH nights, I mean, how do you deal with the, I know I get super upset when I'm losing. I hate losing. Jude, tell us how you feel about that. And while you're doing that, Steve, I'm going to go check on my team.
Give him a little pep talk.
Well, I also think that we got a little tech issue on our side too.
Let me know.
I mean, when you're down, when you're losing, how do you work through those feelings? Because I know it can be tough.
So for me, whenever I'm down, like down in the game, like losing the game, I don't know if this is what it's for other people, but like today I was in a game and we were down, but that just gave me more motivation to come back. And I know that you might hear that a lot, like people say that a lot, but it's actually pretty true, because it gives you that motivation that you're down. And like when players also start being toxic, then you get more motivation. Even when they're not, when you are down, you still do get that motivation. And even if you lose, if you're on like a bad day, then you should probably just go into free play. But you can get over the set. Like if you're upset that you lost, it goes over pretty fast.
Absolutely. And so, Steve, you and I, something that we really pride ourselves on doing is working with that social emotional side.
Totally.
So like you was saying, knowing when it's time to take a break and, getting to that point where you can go take a cool down instead of throwing your controller is a skill that we can teach the esports on top of things like communication, teamwork, leadership. We do a lot with health and wellness. But I know, Steve, a passionate area for you is helping kids navigate digital culture. And so why don't you share what exactly that means and talk about the work that we're doing, as esports coaches through Garden State Esports.
Thanks. Yeah, so hugely important. And it's interesting that Jude brought up toxicity in an interesting way, because Jude kind of said that sometimes when there's toxicity, it motivates you. There's a very fine line, because we're very leery and concerned about toxic behavior, which is definitely a concern in gaming. But one of the things that we feel very strongly about is that we have this amazing opportunity to work with kids to help them navigate those situations. Like what makes me really nervous is when kids are just at home playing in an unsupervised environment and have to try to figure out how to deal with those things.
I gotta interrupt you real quick, Steve. Check out this shot.
Oh, let's see.
He passes it to himself and carries it in the goal after he banks it off of.
Wow.
That's actually called a musty flick. There's this content creator out there, and his name is A Musty Cow. He actually created that flick.
That's awesome, and we got it. So got it.
Wait, Jude, tell us more about that.
That's
people
awesome.
In Rocket League make up their own moves?
Yes, so basically the musty flick, it's where you keep it on your car, but it's sort of out on your nose, so when you lean forward and then you backflip, it gives you momentum, and you're able to scoop it up into the air and get it a lot of power and make it go really fast to the top of the goal.
Well,
And another thing is that it surprises the opponent like a lot, because he actually said that when he created it, he said that he made it so it would be able to surprise opponents, because they don't expect him to do that.
I just learned something new. I didn't know people were out there making their own moves, Jude.
Yeah.
Where did you, for players who are into it like you, where do you go to learn more about the game? And, what is he, a musty cow?
His name is A Musty Cow, but you can just search up Musty Rocket League.
See, my move in Rocket League that I totally coined is the thing where I don't get anywhere near the ball. I try to go off the wall, and then the ball's gone. It's like I don't know what we call it, the Isaac's flip or something. I don't know.
No, I do the same thing where I got the ball and miss completely. But I mean, I think that's something really important to talk about, Steve. Is you don't have to be a gamer or an expert game player, right, to have an esports team. Tell us about that.
Right. So I am all about. I love games, and I love creating community for students who want to be together and play games. So there's that side. So there is a place for everybody, whether it be playing casually or like look at Jude and Karma today taking on the shoutcasting. We have had kids in our club that have, started playing and then decided, you know what, maybe I want to be around this. I want to be part of all this, but shoutcasting can be super fun. And they would take on, that or all these other roles, but even just to be, part of the community playing games. I mean, in our game club, kids are playing, what they want to play, but it's so communal. I've had kids where they didn't have, many, outside relationships and parents would then even call and, or email me and say, hey, I know my son or daughter is having a great time in game club. Can you tell me who they're hanging out with there? Because we're trying to build those relationships outside of school. So yes, so there's, there is a place for, and that's why I always, even though Chris is my competitive counterpart, I always have to pitch the value I've seen in just creating safe. Yeah. And I mean, Chris is doing the same thing, but with more, focus on the nitty gritty of,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so here we are, Steve, 90 seconds left in match number 4. WAMS are up 4-1.
Oh boy.
Back near the goal. Jude, I mean, you're a player, you're a caster. What do we need to do to get back in this game?
So, could you elaborate on that more? Like, what do you mean get back in the game? Do you mean...
Well, Jude, it looks like the WAMS are going to win unless we turn it around. We got about a minute to score 3 goals, and we have to win the next match. I mean, what do you think we should do here? What's the plan, or what would you do if you were in this match?
If I were in this game, I would start playing a little more defensively. And like, that might sound weird to you. You're probably like, oh, why are you attacking more? You're down. Because I feel like if you defend more, then even if you're back on the field, you can still get it to their side. And I don't mean sit in the goal for the whole game. I mean play a little more passively so they can't score more goals, and it gives you more chances to keep it on their side, and that alone gives you more chances to score more goals.
Right. So, Jude talking about some stuff we've discussed as a team is sometimes being able to clear the ball, right, opens up opportunities for your teammate to use their you'll see these little yellow orbs around the game. Those are called, of course, now I can't remember the name of them. Help me out. Boost, thank you. You see the boost on the map there, and when the players pick it up, right, they can hit a button on their controller to go faster. Clearing the ball and then using your boost to catch up to it isn't a bad strategy either here. But as I say that, the WAMS put in another one, Steve.
Oh, 5-1. 13 seconds.
Seconds left. But we're going to play out the series either way.
Yeah, I hope I'm guessing we'll bring the teams, in some way try to get some thoughts from them after the match.
Yeah. And so as we go into game 5 here, right? We're on game 5, pretty sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Steve, we are here as part of the New Jersey School Boards Association, their showcase on esports, which leads me to ask, I'll share my path to getting my team started, but I'm sure your path too went through the school boards, went through superintendents, went through principals. So we probably have a lot of those stakeholders watching.
Yeah.
What was it like for you to work with the administration over in your district to get your team started?
Yeah. So, I was very lucky. I know your story is a little different and there were some challenges. For me, we started like our pay to play after school program. So for years we had clubs. Then our clubs all kind of got canceled due to budget restrictions. And then we started a pay to play club program. So part of it was kind of like, propose a club. And if it's popular enough to sustain itself, then we'll run it, assuming that it had approval. Luckily, my administration was very supportive. I think they really see, and I appreciate them so much for always getting, like, the things I've pitched to them. They've seen the value for kids and the benefits for kids, and all of that. And and I have a history of teaching game design in the district, and that took time to get off the ground. So so there's a lot of neat stuff going on there. But they were very supportive, and I know some schools have challenges there. I can't tell you how thrilled I am that the New Jersey School Board Association is excited about esports. When you talk about stakeholders, I mean, if the NJSBA is interested in what we're doing and sees that value for kids, I mean, that's who we need, to be pitching for these programs. Who better than a school board to already be on board?
Absolutely. So they pull the triggers in a lot of cases. Administrators and superintendents and the school board are the ones that really hold the keys to esports in their district. And you mentioned my story. It was interesting because we were the first middle school esports team in the country. And when I brought this to my school board, and rightfully so, they had reservations. And so they were concerned about things like screen time, students' ability to interact with, other kids and who would be monitoring that, or even people who were playing the game that weren't associated with the school. And to their credit, even though they had concerns, they allowed me to pilot that first year. And one of the ways I was able to, maybe ease some of those concerns is I took those concerns that they had, like I mentioned, and I actually worked them into a curriculum that we use as part of the team. And so, Jude will tell you, we talk about how we treat not only people on our team, but how we treat people, who we're playing against. We talk about when it's time to take breaks. And one of the things I had to ensure the school board was that, I would let parents know and educate them, not just about esports, but, Jude is a wonderful student, and Jude knows that he's got to get his homework done first, and he has to take care of his business before, he says that he needs to practice esports at home or anything like that.
And
Steve.
Well, I was just going to say, and one of the things, that this goes back to your question before about digital culture too, is that I think we've demonstrated that what we're able to do is really, guide kids in these spaces. And having that, I keep thinking how wonderful it'll be if we have kids in the younger grades learning how to appropriately interact with others online. I mean, we could shift that whole culture. And and we talk about it. And like you said, with the SEL curriculum, I mean, we're giving kids an opportunity to have the safe space to actually, to be present to challenges and actually work through them together with us and things. So I think in the end, I hope other districts understand the value of us being the ones. It's kind of like we start teaching digital citizenship in school because we want good digital citizens.
Right.
You have to do it in an authentic way, right? So with us, we're teaching them in the weeds. And the truth is, if we're not doing it in school, they're going home and they're still playing. And then they are in these, potentially toxic environments. So we just want to, but kids need to know. And again, I think we're sending them home much better equipped to, to address challenges.
I mean, and to add on that, I shared a story on Twitter a couple weeks ago. I got some time to play, a very popular esports game named Overwatch, and my in-game name in Overwatch is El Matador. And within the span of 90 minutes, I was racially insulted, 3 or 4 times. And so it's this idea, like you said, that kids are going to game. What we can do is bring them together. We can create a friends group for them, but we can also equip them with the tools to understand, what to do and why those situations sometimes happen and how not to be a part of them. And I think that's really important too. I mean, Jude, do you want to talk about when you're gaming, do you ever have instances like that where somebody you're playing with or against just isn't a fantastic teammate?
Actually, yes. And I feel like Rocket League is one of the most toxic games, in my opinion, because there's a lot of things that you can do wrong in this game, and sometimes, because this game has one of the harshest rank systems, and when people lose their rank, they get really annoyed and angry, so they take it out on their teammates.
Right.
I remember one time I was in a game and I wasn't playing my best, and this guy, he started saying that well, this wasn't actually about me. It was about it was 2 other people.
Okay, so you were a witness.
And in Rocket League, the quick shot "what a save" is mostly used sarcastically.
Mm-hmm.
So he kept spamming that, and then like he said his teammate was very bad at the game.
Right.
And then I tried not to get involved, and then he started dissing me too.
Yeah, I mean, and it can be tough too. You know, I remember, Steve, an experience I had talking to a parent, and going back to that game Overwatch I mentioned before. You know, the parent, I guess, had overheard her child or somebody on her child's team, like, just kind of being yelled at, like Jude mentioned, by somebody that they were playing with, and I guess they weren't playing their best. And the parent asked me, well, why can't they just leave? And a lot of times that would make sense, right? When you're in a toxic environment, you would want to just leave. But what that parent didn't understand is if you voluntarily leave a game, you get banned for a while, right? Because that's one thing games are trying to prevent is when you start a game, if you just happen to leave it, well, then you're likely going to lose. And then the other people on your team aren't having a good experience. So it actually punishes players for leaving a game before the end of a match. And so that's part of why understanding digital culture, you know, that kid has to make a decision. Am I going to sit here and take this abuse, or am I going to be locked out of this game for the next hour? And you know, it's tough. And I think that's why, you know, like with other things in education, we need to take things kids love and are doing, and use that to teach them the skills and lessons we want them to take with them, you know, when they graduate into the real world. And so,
absolutely,
you know, it is tough. And like you even heard Jude mention, the idea that they're using, you know, this call in Rocket League sarcastically, right? There's a whole culture around this stuff, right? When you know, you drop the cafeteria tray and somebody says, "Nice job, Einstein," right? They're not really complimenting you, right? They're being sarcastic. And so there's a whole cultural side to this that, you know, maybe parents don't understand. And again, you know, the beauty of esports, besides the social emotional learning and the career and technical education, I think a big part of this is equipping our kids to handle this situation. I think importantly, not contribute to this situation.
Right.
Right. You know, you and I do a lot with bystander intervention training when it comes to esports.
So, I mean, can you imagine, you know, 5 years from now, if all of the kids in Scholastic Esports, and it's growing hugely, if those kids, you know, are behaving appropriately, it really would change that culture. That's what we can do.
I don't know what your Facebook feed looks like, Steve, but I see a lot of toxic stuff on Facebook.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
It's all adults. And so, you know, equipping the next generation who are going to be more and more working online, you know, and living online and making that part of their everyday life, I think is super important. But what I think, I guess, maybe super important for you, Steve, is that you guys are up 9-0 with 30 seconds left here. And I guess it looks like the WAMS are going to take this showcase for the New Jersey School Board Association.
Do we get the NJSBA Cup? Do we take that home?
I mean, they could come back. They could. There's a chance, but
they could.
9 goals in 10 seconds.
1 goal every 2 seconds. They got to speed.
Look, I'm going to have to do
1
something.
goal every 25 seconds.
I think you guys did great.
I'm going to have to do some deep breathing right now and kind of regain my focus. But as we do that, Steve, you and I are going to stick around for some Q&A.
We will.
Jude, it's a school night. It's time for you to make sure that you have all your homework done and get off to bed, sir. Thank you so much.
If I could real quick though, Jude, fantastic job, and thank you for joining us, and thank you for doing this. I think the insight that you bring, and I hope that everybody heard that, is so valuable to this conversation. So thank you.
Absolutely, Jude. You did fantastic. Thank you to Karma.
Yep.
Caster, the FH Knights, fantastic. Thank you to Spade, Snorlax, and Minty from the Knights for playing hard. Simply hyped. Alpaca and Espion from the WAMS, fantastic game. GG's all around.
Well, we are back. Sorry for all the technical difficulties with us going back and forth between the students and managing all of this. But we appreciate you guys for sticking around for some Q&A with the team here. So I'm gonna bring them up. How you guys doing, Chris and Steve?
Awesome.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Yeah. yeah, we just want to thank you guys for joining. I know it was it's always fun doing stuff remote. This is all new stuff. Trying to manage students in one location, commentators in another, and a studio in another location. It's definitely a lot easier to have it all together.
I think you did a fine job. I was impressed, but and thank you for having us. It's really, really great for us to be involved.
I mean, and I'll even tell you, Josh, to put it in perspective, Steve and I went into our audio Discord channels to dismiss our kids and let them know that they can go and, do whatever they need to do for the rest of the night. They were all in there talking to each other, telling each other good game, and they were trading stories about just playing Rocket League. And I even heard them exchanging online names so that way they could connect and continue to play together. So, in my mind, that's what makes, events like this successful is we're educating, the folks here in New Jersey and beyond about the value of esports. And then Steve and I see it firsthand, our kids all connecting and, hopefully maybe they'll wind up playing together and be friends.
Absolutely. It's such an exciting thing to see. And we've had a lot of, it's been interesting managing multiple different platforms here, but we have a lot of different great comments, a lot of great things happening over on the Twitch platform. And it's great to obviously hear the students, back and forth from the perspective of talking about the game. But we do have some Q&A things that I want to go through with you guys. A lot of great questions about how to start a program, what that looks like. Obviously, you guys saw the platform one that are watching on the stream and they're watching in the Zoom. Platform one is something where we actually will help develop all those elements, right? Esports integration and Horizon AVL. We've been Horizon AVL is a 40-year-old integration firm, and we've been designing arenas. Right now, we have over 120 colleges and universities across the U.S. that we've helped develop their programs. Wow. That's everything from curriculum to building the facility from that standpoint. And then we wanted to, through that process, we heard a lot, where are we going to get these students from, right? Like we want to recruit, we want to give out scholarships for these students, and I know that they're really excited about bringing on students. But the major question and concern sometimes is what high schools are doing what middle schools are doing what. And so that really led us into, developing Platform One for high schools and middle schools, and then working with you guys in this scenario and in this space is so exciting because you guys are the pioneers. You guys are leading in this space, and that's really exciting to see, that all come together. With that, I want to sort of lead off with some of these questions. So one question is, has playing esports motivated your students academically or in terms of being more involved in a school? So Chris, I'll start off with you, and then Steve, you can follow up.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. When I started the team, one of the things that I pulled were the involvement of my kids in other stuff. And what I found is, generally speaking, my kids weren't really involved in any extracurricular activities, or they weren't involved in sports or anything like that outside of school, right? A majority of them really just went home and video gaming was their thing. And so for me, part of what's exciting about esports is that we draw in sometimes students that don't have what I call like a homeschool connection. And so, the research is very clear. Kids who are involved in school and extracurriculars, and, they have, somebody to connect with, as far as a teacher, when they have a friends group, that's the kind of stuff that you're going to see, improved attendance. You're going to see improved academics. And then the other thing I'll say is I always go back to something Jim O'Hagan says, and Jim O'Hagan is a great esports guy. He has a wonderful podcast, and I always love listening to Jim talk, because he always turns that question around and he says, well, what do you want your esports team to do? Tell me what your goals are, and I can tell you how to use your esports program. And so I can tell you personally, right, at Fairhaven, I do use esports as a way to motivate students. So I tie attendance, I tie grades, and I tie behavior to eligibility to be part of my team. And so just like in traditional sports, if I have students who are acting up, maybe they get benched for a match, maybe they lose their spot, maybe they have to, take a suspension for a week until they collect themselves. But on the other hand, right, going back to what Jim says is, show me your goals. Steve and I are very lucky that we get to work with a ton of school districts and try to bring them on board, with esports teams through Garden State Esports, which is the nonprofit Steve and I started, because we figured we were doing so much of this. Let's kind of formalize the process and get support so we can bring esports teams to every school in New Jersey. And so, there's other districts where it would be appropriate to maybe not tie grades, maybe not tie attendance, because you want students just to be in school, with a role model like Steve as a coach. And anytime that kid can get to school and anytime he can be in Steve's presence and he can come to practice, even if he doesn't have the best grades, even if he doesn't have the best attendance, even if he's not the best behaved, right? Having that student, have that role model, right, in an esports coach like Steve, I think is really important. And so esports can be used in a variety of ways, just like, other extracurricular activities, the way that we use sports, to not only draw in kids that maybe don't have a homeschool connection, right, but we can also get better learning outcomes and better personal relationships and personal connections with them all through an esports team. I mean, Steve, I don't know if you're seeing the same thing over at your place.
Well, of course. I always love hearing Chris talk about, that homeschool connection piece, because I see that exactly as well. And it's really neat to give kids that place. And interestingly, and I know Chris has the same experience, we have a lot of kids in our programs that have IEPs and 504 plans and, are on maybe even on, on the spectrum and whatnot. And in that room, they're all part of the esports club. I love, Chris has this one video that shows one of his kids that maybe you'll talk to it, but that whenever he scores, I think he, says something, but that's become like something within their club. And it's sort of, it's related in a sense. It's I guess you'd say, sort of related to his being on the autism spectrum in a sense, the way that he says what like, what I'm talking about, right? From that video, Chris.
Yeah.
What does he say? He says, so-and-so scored or something like that, right? Every time.
And so what Steve's talking about is I had a fantastic boy come out for my esports team. He is one of our special needs students, and I remember some of the staff over at Fairhaven approached me and said, do you think this is something that he could be involved in? Because he loves video games and they wanted to add that social aspect to it. So I said, let's have him come out, let's have a try. He had never played Rocket League before. Within a week or two, he became one of my best players. And he would get so excited when he scored. He would yell, "Tyler scored."
Yeah.
And the whole team started to just do it too.
Yeah.
And it was just fantastic to see, my kids rally around, that boy who, for the first time, I think was participating in kind of a team sport. And, it's funny, he's moved on to high school now, but he just friended me on Rocket League the other day. And I told him, I said, hey, you still want to practice with us? You're more than welcome to, because it's always about building that connection. Yeah. And, having run my program for 3 years, I graduated my first crop of kids last year. I have an alumni night where those kids from high school come down and play my middle school kids. And not only do they play, but then we have a conversation about what high school life is like and, what middle schoolers could do now to prepare. And what I love about that is, my kids that are in middle school see these old friends come back from high school, knowing that when they go to high school, those kids are going to be there. And so my middle schoolers are walking into a program at their high school that my kids went and started. Knowing, half the kids on the team. And so, kind of just seeing the way this homeschool connection is built and seeing what kind of kids can participate in esports. Because I'll tell you, I coached wrestling and I've wrestled for most of my life. And I would argue that wrestling is the most, you could be involved in wrestling where you couldn't be involved in other sports. But I'll tell you, when it comes to being able to have kids come and play, esports, is phenomenal. You even look at, there's controllers now being made by Microsoft that allow people, with physical disabilities be part of the game. So I think this idea that esports is an opportunity for a lot of kids who otherwise couldn't or didn't want to play other sports.
Yeah, that and what Chris also just brought up about that middle school to high school part. We started a high school program a year after our middle school program, and now kids from the high school want to come down and talk to the middle school kids about the games they're playing, because they do feel they need to kind of recruit and all that. And it's really neat to see them come down. They create a presentation, they take questions, they invite the kids to their community. And we have right now something neat where one of the kids that was just playing tonight, Espion, he wanted to get into League of Legends, and we don't have a league team at the middle school. And the high school team right now doesn't have a team, but they have players. So the high school kids are mentoring the middle school kids. And my coach up there said, you got to check this out. It's like incredible hearing them, work together. So you get that. And that's that great mentorship part. And the kids that are mentoring them are not kids that ever thought they were going to be mentoring kids at something, But we have, it's just like the relationships, like Chris said, the participation in school activities. There's something really important about that I think we all understand. And I think with this group, like Chris says, and and I've seen, a lot of the kids otherwise might not have had that, or even if they did, this is where they really thrive in that environment. And it's, pretty awesome to be part of.
Sure. Yeah, it's really exciting, sort of to see this whole aspect of really something that a generation where I grew up, in the basically the birthing of video games, coming home from a console standpoint, and where we are today. All these students are now it's very different, right? I am a parent of an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old, right? And the way that they view the world, the way they take on content, what they deem as a pastime, is very different than what I and generations prior. Right. And the involvement from student standpoint is extremely exciting to see, these kids really wanting to roll up their sleeves and get involved. And really what we sort of preach in all of this is the element of esports is just the vessel. Right? Esports is the vessel to take these students into a career path. It's motivating them, right? I see it with my own kids. In my presentation yesterday, I give the example of really what started the whole concept of Platform One, and that was 2 years ago. My son and I, he was 9 at the time, we built an arcade console, right? Oh, nice. And we did everything from, I brought home CAD drawings to scale. I showed him how to utilize all of that. I showed him how to build a breadboard. We had a Raspberry Pi, but I got real arcade buttons and switches. I showed him how to solder, how to read resistors. We had to build a breadboard together. I had to show him how to get a Raspberry Pi up and running from nothing, right? And so these were basic building steps, these stepping stones to an industry. And that's the one thing that I want a lot of people to understand, that this industry is massive, right? It's big. And I don't think people realize how big esports and the video game world is at the end of the day, right? The lens often parents, I think, see, or even people who are looking at it, not even necessarily parents, but even administration, that is sort of looking at this lens of what esports is. The first thing they see is, well, students are just playing video games. And so we want to get past that concept and say, well, what is the industry? What is the direction in which our country and the world is moving? And it's moving in that direction. It's moving in that industry style direction, right? And like I said, esports is the vessel. So preparing these students is is very key, right? Because they can walk away, right, with an understanding of commentating in an esports game, but then they can go on and they can understand news broadcast through that process. And so that's something that's really exciting for us. And we want people to understand and sort of when you're going through this process, and what we've offered in Platform One and what we've offered through our process is to say, well, what do the next 3 to 5 years look like? How are you building upon that? Sure, we bring games in now in the competition side of things, right? That's the simple part. But how are you preparing the students for critical thinking? How are you building these skill sets that they're going to need for a career in the future? Right. Communication, right? All of that. So go ahead.
I was just going to say our message, and whenever we present is talking about those career pathways. In fact, Chris and I have a book coming out in November called The Esports Playbook. And the whole idea there is really talking about the whole esports ecosystem. So that is what's important. It's definitely far beyond, as some of us say, the person pushing the buttons.
Yeah, I mean, and to build off that whole thing is something that Steve and I always talk about and promote and try to convince other districts who do have an esports team to take it one step further, right? We talk about having the team behind the team.
Yeah.
On the Fairhaven Knights, I have my players, but those players also have a dual role. Or I have students who are on the team, like Steve was talking about earlier, who necessarily don't want to play the game, but they just want to be involved. So I have team journalists, I have team podcasters, I have kids who help with the IT and setup of devices. My kids, when we need to rent our media center to have an event, they fill out all of the paperwork. I have kids who do graphic design, they prepare the social media posts and everything. So there's a real opportunity through an esports team to give kids hands-on experiences with these careers. And it's exactly like you said, Josh, especially everything that has happened with COVID. You saw every major sporting league who had events canceled, they all turned to esports, right? Esports is the fastest growing industry in the world. And when you talk about size, the video game industry, which includes esports, makes more than the movie and music industry combined every
to the tune of $152 billion in revenue last year, when the film and the music industry was only $60 billion. More than double.
Opportunity. One thing, we talk about social emotional learning, we talk about health and wellness, we talk about navigating digital culture, but we also talk about careers. And I tell the kids, I remember when I was coaching, I've been lucky enough to coach some D1 athletes. I got a couple kids that are in the NFL and stuff like that. And when I was coaching them and they were dreaming about making it to the NFL, right? Nobody ever said, rain on their parade. And why would you convince them, they can't go, they could go to the NFL, right? But with being a professional gamer, right, people are quick to say, well, that's not possible. And don't get me wrong, it's going to be extremely difficult. But even if they follow that passion, they're still going to be in an ecosystem that is full of lucrative jobs. So it is very possible through the work, that Steve and I are doing through Garden State Esports, where you can have a world where a kid starts esports in middle school, goes to high school, goes to college, because, you're talking about Rutgers University has the largest esports program in the country. They have over 1,000 kids in their esports program. And then from there, they can go right into, a job field that is either, one of those STEAM jobs that we're always talking about, right? So if we're serious about STEAM, we need to be serious about esports, or one of those more traditional jobs. When I was starting the Knights and we had no other middle schools to play, we played colleges. And so I called up Rutgers and I asked their kids if they would play us. And, the first match we ever played was against Rutgers, but we talked to them afterward. And my kids were so interested in asking about college life, and they were asking about careers. And one of the most fascinating students from Rutgers was an accounting major who was going to go be an accountant for, wanted to be in an esports firm. So he can have that video game kind of passion still going while he's pursuing a more traditional esport, and something else I'll mention too, with Garden State Esports, one of our partners is the United States Army. And we've partnered with them because they have been doing incredible work around the performance triad, right? Diet, sleep, and exercise, and its effect on performance. And they've been very generous to lend us their experts and their research. And so we're working that into what we're building with Garden State Esports. But the other side of that is not a lot of people realize that the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy have esports teams. And so you can even take your passion into the military and then into a career or college afterward. And, the last thing I'll say too has been kind of neat through my work with them. And, we're kind of talking to soldiers about the performance triad and stuff like that. And, being part of one of their Discord servers, watching some of the men and women in the military organize their own on-base tournaments in esports has been something I was surprised. So, there seems to be this competitive video gaming everywhere, high school, middle school, college. I think it's important that we make sure kids are prepared for the whole pipeline, and the careers at the end of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It is a big industry. So I do have another question here. Actually, I've got two more, and we have about 12 minutes left here in this session. So one of these questions is, what is the minimum financial investment a small program would need to get off the ground? And this is probably one of the biggest questions as a part of an AV integrator that we get asked all the time. But I have my answer, but I'll let you guys answer it first.
Yeah. Well, minimal is starting with a Nintendo Switch and a few Joy-Cons and letting kids bring their own as well. You can get a lot of play out of kids getting into like Super Smash Brothers as a start, right? And then also, we always talk to schools that are like, how do we get started? And I mean, so that's minimal, right? Also, some schools start with a little more of a BYO, like if kids are bringing in their consoles even to play, or start that way. In a perfect world, you can get an outfit with 12 good computers that you could play the different games and have at least 6v6 for a good legitimate practice and such. So it's not even that you have to get 40 machines to accommodate the club either. So there are definitely ways to do that. And I personally don't think that I think you start the club because there's interest and you can get started. And then, it grows, by the support of the people involved as well. But I think that's I think if you had to start with a Switch and a couple controllers, you could get started.
I mean, and maybe the best thing I could do, so through Garden State Esports, we currently have 58 school districts that are part of our league. And even before we formalized Garden State Esports and have been trying to help bring esports to schools in New Jersey, right, Steve and I have been working with schools all over the country. And so I could give you, right, some of the things that we've been doing. And so like Steve said, bring your own device is one way where kids bring in Xboxes, or we've even seen, groups like the PTA purchase consoles.
Yep.
And the game that you just saw, Rocket League, is a great place to start because that game itself is actually free to play.
Yes.
And, even something more on the cutting edge is cloud gaming. We have a school district at Garden State Esports that's piloting a program where they're actually using Chromebooks. And what we're doing there is, because Rocket League is free to play, a company called NVIDIA has a program called GeForce Now, where you can play your game in the cloud. So we have an entire district who's running their Rocket League team for $5 a kid off of their
Wow.
Chromebook. And that's been amazing. But the other side of this too, though, Josh, is schools can consider this an investment. I'm very lucky at Fairhaven where I have some high-end laptops that I use in class. So we do our video editing, we do video game design, we do coding, 3D, rendering, all on these laptops. But, so we have a significant STEM program at
Right.
Fairhaven. And then magically, when 3 o'clock hits, they transfer into the
And we have the same exact situation because I teach game design, and that's pushed the need for our computers for curriculum reasons, which is exactly what Chris is saying. And when that drives the purchase, then doubling them for esports is great. And that's worked wonders for us in both our middle and high school program.
Yeah, and even, it's interesting right now with many athletic seasons being canceled. We've even seen some schools redirect like their athletic travel into an investment into a STEM lab that also doubles the sports arena.
And in all fairness, when we talk about budgets for athletics, I mean, I would love to see, let's say the budget for a football program and give us a fraction of that, and we could have the most amazing tech setup, and it would look like, oh my gosh, you bought all these great computers, but you're really only using a fraction of that budget.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I used to coach. Well, I can tell you what our budget used to be, and it was serious, and nobody batted an eye.
I'll tell you, computers, like high-end computers, are a lot less expensive than AstroTurf.
They are. That is definitely true. It's really interesting that this question gets asked a lot. And I say, what does it really take to invest in a student? What is the limitation on it, right? And I understand there's budgets, right? And you have to put that together. But really, we have to ask ourselves, when it comes to the students, from a diversity standpoint, when we look across the entire landscape of all of these students that are out there, sure, there are the athletic ones that traditionally look at the athletics, football, basketball, baseball, etc. And you see that model, right? And parents invest a lot into the time of taking their kids to the practices, and schools obviously invest a lot of time into that. And I will say, I was the non-athletic type in high school. That's not where I stood at all. I was sort of in the background. I had a lot of friends. Obviously wasn't sort of out there all by myself, but that just wasn't where I was. That wasn't where my interests were. I was at 12 and 13. I remember my father bringing home a computer and me tearing it apart, right? Because that my dad almost had my head, but and I put it back together successfully. But that's what piqued my interest. And so I would say to people looking to start a program, really, what are the limitations of really, what's stopping us from investing in it, right? We need to make sure that these students are involved in these programs, because there are those that aren't going to be out there that are going to join traditional sports, and they want to do something like this. And so from a financial standpoint, right, from a financial standpoint of getting started, we sort of say, well, let's actually look at your mission and your goal. Like, we actually take a step back for a moment, and we don't like to jump in and say, well, let's get 12 computers, let's get these switches, and all of those are things that we will discuss, absolutely. But we want to kind of see what direction you're heading in and where you're going to be in the next 3 to 5 years, and to build that program, right? To have someone give you guidance and direction is really important, which then can help guide, I think, the financial aspect of starting a program. Were you going to say something, Steve, specifically?
No, I'm agreeing with you, everything you're saying.
Well, we have about 5 minutes left of time. This has been great questions, great responses. And I do have one more question in here. And it states, are these games, or are there games geared towards much younger students? So I'm assuming that we're talking about probably elementary students at that point, right? So why don't I let you guys answer that, probably about a minute and a half for each one, and then we'll wrap it up.
Well, I'd love to grab that one. So Minecraft, I thought for the longest time there was a missing link in esports by not having Minecraft represented, and now it is in very big ways. Garden State Esports is Chris and I are working with Florida Esports and NASEF to bring about a number of these great Minecraft challenges. Right now, the Rube Goldberg challenges, which is an ongoing year-long program where kids are right now doing a number of simple machine challenges, and then they're going to build a full Rube Goldberg machine as teams in the spring, and we have other programs like that. That is a great entry point, and similar. And Rocket League is very appropriate for upper elementary school, without a doubt.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Chris, anything from your perspective of something from sure, Minecraft, absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly with that.
I'll even add to that we can always already start to rethink what an esport means. The idea of having build challenges, which is an asynchronous competition, as opposed to face-to-face, you play, I play against each other. That wasn't something on a lot of people's radar a few years ago.
Sure.
And the idea that sports and education is already evolving. Now you start thinking about things like speed running video games.
Oh yeah. Speed runs are great. Yeah.
Start thinking about some of these more, I'm trying to think like farming simulators, or they're making esports out of everything. I saw one of those mobile games. They had an esports event the other day, Clash of Heroes or something crazy like that. So I think you're going to continue to see esports obviously be big business, and I think you're going to see what it constitutes an esport. Just like going back to traditional sports, where I always go is I always used to argue with my athletes, say things like dance and cheerleading wasn't a sport.
Ooh,
and I had to correct very quickly, right? That those are sports, and there are a number of different sports, and they look different. And so I think you're going to see that in esports as it continues to grow. What is considered an esport, is going to be very different, and I think you're going to see a lot of that be more geared to the general public, which I think would include elementary school, just as it continues to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to sort of, we've got just about a minute and a half here. Games for younger students, having sort of been in the industry for a while, and then sort of putting it upon my kids, almost testing it out with them a bit. The one thing that I would say is, build upon skills necessary. Obviously, hand-eye coordination, it needs to be developed as the older they get, and then also the concept of strategizing. I didn't really start to see a turn until my son was about 9.5, 10, and then from that standpoint, then he started, from a critical thinking standpoint within the game. Okay, now I get potential strategy of the game, and this is how I can do strategy. Whereas when they're younger, sure, things like Minecraft, it's building hand-eye coordination, it's building critical thinking paths, it's building all of those elements, and that's really a good foundation, right? Where to begin. So I want to thank the two of you guys for joining us and your teams. It has been a wonderful time getting together and promoting this in the state of New Jersey. We're really excited about what this looks like for the state of New Jersey, and so I'm challenging all the administrators that are watching, what does this look like for you guys?
And you know what, for the administrators out there, I think our book will serve as a really great reference. It's a real how to get started, and really don't, let's help you not make some of the mistakes a lot of people have made and stuff. And that's the Esports Playbook, empowering learning through inclusive gaming. Something like that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. These resources are great, are great resources. And so thank you guys. We look forward to meeting you. I know that the platform is going to be up for 365 days for a whole year, so you can then check this out. You guys can continue to check the go back if you'd like on the Twitch page. You can watch the video. We appreciate everyone walking through all the technical difficulties that we've had, but it was still fun. I'm glad that the students had a great time, and I'm very thankful for both teams for participating. So make sure you guys continue to check us out on esportsintegration.com, and we look forward to seeing you guys and meeting with you guys and talking about esports. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it, guys.
Thanks.
All right, guys. Take care. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.